Anywho, let's get right into it. Dragon Ball Super: The Reclaimer Saga. The plot is going to be after reaching new limits in the Tournament of Power, the Z Fighters test out their new strengths and expand them to their fullest potential. Goku has gone in search of the answers on how to master Ultra Instinct, leaving Vegeta as the world's protector in his place. But when a group of adversaries calling themselves the Reclaimers emerge from darkness to finish the work started by another enemy of Goku's past, the Z Fighters must pull out all the stops if they want to save the mortals and gods themselves from total annihilation. Going into part 1, titled The Lost Limit Breaker, Gohan's Great Revelation. So this arc takes place obviously after the Tournament of Power and some filler episodes to give the characters a chance to breathe after the hectic battle they underwent. After the Z Fighters match in the Tournament of Power, new limits have been found out on everyone's behalf. After their break from fighting, they are training to master them for the next big threat that awaits. Goku has gone off on his space adventure to master Ultra Instinct. He doesn't want to stay on Earth because he wants to put himself out of his element, nor is he ever going to rely on Super Saiyan forms again, or at least for now. Whis around the beginning did mention that the Saiyans rely too much on their Super Saiyan forms, so for Goku he's going to start from scratch and rely on his abilities as a fighter. This is kind of like what he did to get the hang of Super Saiyan 1 when he stayed in space after his fight with Frieza. Of course, and then eventually he could have some time to be left alone. He learned instant transmission. Of course, he spent time with the Yardrats as well, so that's when this would pretty much be taking place, or it'd be similar to that if we should say it, for Goku kind of going off on his own. Meanwhile, though, on Earth and Beerus' planet, Vegeta continues training with his new form. Since Gohan is still playing catch-up, Vegeta is now relied on as the defender of Earth, something he's not taking lightly, especially with Bullet around. He and Goku have decided that for now they'll advance their trainings in their own ways. For Vegeta, he'll need to stay with Whis' mentorship to further learn more about God Ki control. Gohan continues his own form of training, struggling to look for a gateway into his new power. Even with Piccolo's help, the trainings are not going anywhere substantially. Piccolo is a great teacher, but Gohan is looking for something neither of them know what or where to find, so Gohan decides the best thing to do is to meditate on this for a bit. Videl begins getting worried about Gohan. If not making him late for work, his training schedule is actually giving him less time to spend with his family. Gohan then apologizes but explains to her that he needs to do this, especially after seeing the threats that they could face if an evil Jiren were to ever show up, or somebody with Jiren's power and strength capabilities were to show up and they were evil, or even beyond that. It will be a scary thought. It isn't after he sees Pan powering up while playing around the house. Gohan is reminded when he was a kid and his father took him to the hyperbolic time chamber to train as a kid to face Cell and the androids and what it took to make him a Super Saiyan. He then remembers that he learned to master Super Saiyan 1 mostly due to his ability to transform into Super Saiyan 2 because he spent so much time in Super Saiyan Grade 1 and it didn't even drain his stamina after getting used to it at some point, which was Goku's idea. And then he decides that perhaps staying Ultimate Gohan as long as possible is the best way to start. Gohan then asks Vegeta to spar with him using the Ascended Super Saiyan Blue form, and Vegeta complies. Actually impressed with Kakarot's eldest son finally ending his lazy streak and actually training. In space, Goku is thinking of how to teach his body to move on its own and remembers that Jiren in the Tournament of Power meditated and that increased his power greatly. Goku does the same until he's attacked by strange pirates led by a man named Bojack, who tells Goku that he's got a major bounty on his head. Apparently, a woman by the name of Toa is guaranteeing a handsome sum of cash for anyone who can kill a man who looks just like Son Goku and is named Son Goku. Goku doesn't know who this Toa woman is, but he'll gladly take on the challenge, and Goku faces off against all the Bojack pirates without his Super Saiyan form, hoping this will help him to unlock Ultra Instinct. The last part of information for this first chapter in the story, Vegeta's back on Earth as Gohan is on the ropes. It's intense and Gohan is getting more and more overwhelmed by Vegeta's relentless barrage, but he won't give up. He will get his new form. If Vegeta has Ascended Super Saiyan Blue and his dad has Ultra Instinct, Gohan can find his own way too. The Half Saiyan manages to save himself from a loss by tricking Vegeta into letting his guard down and delivers a big blow on the Saiyan Prince. Vegeta at first is irritated but then smirks and ends the match, admitting he's kind of proud that Gohan has finally tapped into his inner Saiyan warrior spirit. Gohan thanks Vegeta but is still bummed he's not getting any closer to that new form of his. Vegeta has his Ascended Super Saiyan Blue form, Goku has Ultra Instinct, Gohan is just left in the dust trying to play catch up. Vegeta gives him advice, telling him it's not easily reaching something you aren't quite sure of yet. Vegeta also remembers when he thought he was a Super Saiyan back during the Namekian saga. He tells Gohan you'll never quite know what you're looking for until you have it, and he tells him that he shouldn't worry about the new form now, just let it come to him over time. Just focus on getting stronger like his father. Goku never looked for the next level of Super Saiyan, he looked for the next level of being the warrior, and because of that he was always ahead of Vegeta, who simply looked to surpass Goku instead of his own limitations. Until now, that is. Gohan reflects on this and thanks Vegeta and heads off, now realizing what he needs to do. Train, just to train to be a better fighter, and then the form can come whenever it wishes. He'll get it one day, someday, he's sure of that, but until then, he'll improve his own skills, get better with what he has, and then ascend to the next level. Next time on Dragon Ball Super, while Vegeta's away, an evil comes out to play. A mysterious woman is attacking Bulma and it's up to Trunks to save her. Wow, she's actually tougher than he thought. Can Trunks reach deep within to unlock a power strong enough to hold off this crazy strong woman? And can Vegeta return home fast enough in time to save his family? One thing's for sure, Toa, you've messed with the wrong family. So guys, that does conclude this first chapter, and usually I'm not a huge fan of different type of spin-offs that fans created, because it's really all perceptive. It just depends if you like the story, if you like the creation, if you kind of like the narrating and the plot and characteristics of things from characters, because you know sometimes people will make stories and make characters behave and act differently than what they actually are, and sometimes some people like that depending if they want a character to change, and then some people who are really stuck on a character being who they are and not changing don't like the change or the differences. But personally, I think Jay did a pretty good job with this. I thought his detailing, I thought structuring things the way he did, using real sources, obviously in real events in the actual Dragon Ball timeline that's happened, and incorporating it into this first chapter here in the quote-unquote Reclaimer saga, I didn't think it was actually too bad, and I would like to obviously uncover more of this. He does have 2 other chapters I have not gotten into yet. I wanted to obviously get this first one out, and let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below in regards to this first chapter. I even think something like this would kind of be cool to turn into a really short fan-made manga, especially since it's not a whole lot of content. I think it could be interesting and make for, you know, a really cool story, a cool side story, because like I said, some of these things are things that we may actually see here after the Tournament of Power. We know Gohan is going to start working on his new form, which was mentioned here. We know Goku is probably still going to be trying his best to master Ultra Instinct, because I highly doubt he's going to be able to master the entire technique in this Tournament of Power. And of course, with Vegeta more than likely ascending past Super Saiyan Blue currently within the next week or 2, once we see the next episode, you figure he's going to want to continue to improve on that, as well as trying to tap into Ultra Instinct himself. So a lot of stuff that we can actually see, and we are more than likely going to see in Dragon Ball Super, has been incorporated into this story that Jake kind of put together himself, and I thought, like I said, it was really well done, well written, and like I said, it didn't seem too far-fetched. Most things that were displayed and said here in this chapter were actually very relatable to how these characters probably would handle these situations and have this dialogue go in the actual anime and the manga of Dragon Ball Super currently. One thing we have not seen in a long time here in Dragon Ball is an actual sparring or fighting session between Vegeta and Gohan. When you actually think back to it, the last time they truly have fought on any given level that was at least at a serious note was back when Vegeta technically was a villain, was evil, and that was back during the second half of the Saiyan saga. That's the last time we saw Gohan and Vegeta fight, and like I said, Gohan was a kid back then, so things have entirely changed since then. Of course, Vegeta is definitely much more stronger than Gohan at this point, but still, it's been a long time, and I would really be up for seeing these two spar here at some point in Dragon Ball Super, especially if Goku's going to be focusing on how to master Ultra Instinct. I think it would be a good opportunity for Vegeta to also kind of mentor Gohan in a little bit, or in a way a little bit. I did a video months ago in regards to Vegeta being the best potential tutor and mentor for Gohan. Vegeta's always been the character and has always been the one that has noticed and realized Gohan's latent potential. He brings it up quite a bit, acknowledging that Gohan has the most potential even between him and Goku, or Kakarot as he would say. He knows Gohan has the most potential, and he has no shame in admitting that, and he's noticed Gohan's potential from from a kid. That's a huge deal. You know, a lot of people know Gohan's strength, but when it comes to seeing his latent potential, especially when it comes to being part of the Saiyan race, still, Gohan's not a full-blooded Saiyan, obviously, but he still does have that inner Saiyan warrior in him somewhere. Vegeta acknowledges that. He knows that, being a prince, he is very aware of how strong other Saiyans can be, especially at this point in his life. I think he was so kind of clouded by his own arrogance and his own ego that, you know, he didn't want to accept that Goku was where he was at, but eventually he came to the reality of Goku's power and strength and his potential as well, and why he continues to get stronger and stronger, and why Goku was always one step ahead of him. He can also notice that within Gohan in a different way, obviously, with Gohan's personality, his characteristics, and his traits. So let's just hop right into chapter 2. We start off with Goku fighting the Bojack and his pirate men. Despite his self-imposed power level handicap, Goku begins getting the upper hand. Although no closer to getting Ultra Instinct, the tide turns, however, when using dirty tactics and sinister gadgets to keep Goku off his game while punishing his every mistake with brutal deliveries of martial arts damage to complement the damage of their weapons. Then Gay especially trips Goku up using his warrior instincts against him, delivering heavy damage with her well-played psycho threads that are nearly impossible for Goku to spot or pay attention to while fighting other capable warriors. After a break in the fight, Goku scolds the vile warriors for cheating and relying on other weapons to fight, but Bojack laughs at this, believing Goku to be crazy. They've heard of the legendary Goku, victor over Frieza, slayer of Majin Buu, although they still don't see how, considering how weak he is considering. Goku grins at the challenge, reminds them that he's only getting warmed up, and gets into his proper fighting stance. Meanwhile, Vegeta is training with Whis on Beerus' planet. Due to the nature of God Ki, Vegeta's only way of learning how to control it more is through Whis. As he attacks his angelic mentor, Vegeta begins reflecting on his arch-rival's absence. Kakarot would no doubt be behind Vegeta and God Ki power by the time he turned around, but what if Ultra Instinct really is the root of being the strongest fighter? How many times has he believed he was getting stronger than Kakarot, only to find the clown was on a whole nother new level? Vegeta begins losing more focus when he remembers his fight with his rival when he was granted power by Babidi, and how he thought he had finally surpassed the same warrior of Earth, only to learn he had Super Saiyan 3 in his back pocket. Despite the Gentle Saiyan's excuses of not being able to maintain the form, Vegeta, even to this day, always believed Kakarot didn't use it out of pity or the futile efforts of the disgraced Saiyan Prince. What if Ultra Instinct was the better way? What if Goku finds something that transcends beyond Ultra Instinct 3? Seemingly, Pastor is given the nature of the technique, but knowing Kakarot, he'd find a way to make it happen. During Vegeta's mental crisis, Whis has been noticing his focus and fighting efficiently, slowly decreasing, rather making silly mistakes, which is usually unlike Vegeta. Having enough of his student's carelessness, he winds up punishing Vegeta by delivering a jab to the left shoulder. Simple jab dealing unspeakable pain, knocking Vegeta out of his Super Saiyan Blue form entirely and back to his base form. As the student catches his breath, obviously referring to Vegeta, Whis rhetorically asks Vegeta what he's thinking about. Vegeta doesn't want to admit it, but Whis picks up on this shortly and chastises Vegeta on focusing on Goku once again, showing some disappointment due to all of his progression. Whis then suggests that Vegeta may be kind of excited at the fact that he may be slightly getting ahead of Goku by now. I'm just assuming after the tournament of power, Vegeta's new power, he can access it essentially at any time, versus Goku's new power, he cannot access it at will, which makes Vegeta kind of stronger now, and it may scare him to get back into second place. Vegeta thinks about it for a bit and reflects on his progress. Ever since he met Kakarot, he can only have dreamed to be where he is now, finally surpassing him. It's only because of his Saiyan pride, and he refuses to settle for second best. Whis tells Vegeta that he should be less concerned with Goku and his status and always try to aim higher. Vegeta retorts by saying he already knows this and does not need to be lectured on it. He just feels strange now for some reason. Whis realizes that this is probably due to the fact that Vegeta has spent so long and so much time chasing Goku. He has even had a harder time accepting his own strength. The prince has always believed that he could surpass Goku someday, but now that he's actually doing it with his own method, Goku is doing his own thing on his own path. It's not the same as racing next to him for the next form of Super Saiyan. Vegeta is no longer chasing after Goku, now he's actually leading. And unlike when he first started training with Whis, this time Goku is actually training to use a technique that may or may not be able to surpass everything Vegeta is staying behind to learn here today. And the thought of being back at square one for the 1000th time irritates the Saiyan Prince. Noticing Vegeta getting lost in the thought again, Whis suggests changing the subject and now wishes to see Vegeta what he can actually fully do with his new form. He orders his people to come at him with everything he can until commanded otherwise. Vegeta nods and transforms into his ascended Super Saiyan Blue form, and the fighting commences. On Earth, Bulma is feeding Bulla. Trunks tries to play with her, but he makes Bulla cry in the process. Trunks takes a sigh of relief when he remembers his father's not home. He would have killed him for committing such an act. Bulma scolds him though and sends Trunks into a timeout. Trunks pouts, wishing he had never had a sister to begin with. After getting Bulla to go to sleep, Bulma takes her to her crib and begins walking to her lab to tinker with experiments until she finds some blue woman inside there already waiting for her. Bulma mistakenly mistakes her for a poorly dressed angel, but the intruder reveals herself as a demon named Toa, and she's quite interested in Bulma's technology. She's even heard she has a device that can track the Super Dragon Balls as well, and would like to know where it is. Bulma's a bit taken back by this, but of course, she refuses to comply. Toa scolds her defiance and reminds Bulma of her superiority over her, trashing the intelligence of her and the entire human race. Don't know why I slipped that up. Bulma snaps back by saying if she's so much smarter, why not make a Super Dragon Ball tracker herself, which sets off Toa to the point of smacking Bulma to the ground for her insolence. How dare she talk to someone of importance such as herself? Bulma assesses the situation as she recovers and thinks of a way to go get help. But from where? Goku's gone and Vegeta's training with Whis. Just then a thought occurs to her. She decides to completely comply with Toa, showing a complete turnaround in her character by praising Toa and apologizing for not seeing how superior she was beforehand. The vain demon accepts the apology and then demands that Bulma takes her to the Super Dragon Ball tracker. On Beerus' home world, Beerus wakes up and finds himself quite impressed with Vegeta's improvement. He remembers just a while back the Saiyan could only punch hard enough to give him a really good scratching. Now he may actually be formidable. Whis says he's happy to hear Beerus say that, knowing his teaching method is working out splendidly. Beerus then orders Whis to go to Earth to get some food to bring him back for his last trip there. Whis admits he may have eaten it all up before he brought Vegeta home. Beerus scowls him and then demands Whis goes back to Earth right now and gets more food from Bulma. The angel attendant to his lord tells him to settle down, while asks Bulma to make more food so it's ready by the time he gets there. Then he asks Beerus if he has any special requests. Beerus realizes he may have to think on this a little bit. Back on Earth, Bulma has led Toa into the gravity chamber where she sees the radars on the control console. Toa pauses for a second before commanding Bulma to go get it for her, causing Bulma to panic some. She then takes her steps and where she goes to get to the console that the controls of the gravity settings and pretends to pull something out. Toa gets impatient and demands Bulma to hurry up, but the blue-haired human tells her that the radar is stuck in the console and she needs help prying it open. The annoyed demon scolds Bulma on her uselessness and enters the room to try and help the weakling until she witnesses her run out of the room as the gravity chamber begins lighting up. Hands on her hips triumphantly, Bulma sarcastically hopes that Toa is okay with 1,000 times normal gravity and shuts the door. Toa simply scuffs and then bursts into a chuckle as the gravity settings kick in and she seems unaffected. With ease, Toa blasts through the door, destroying the room with a key blast and holding up Bulma by her neck with one hand and a sinister smile on her face, claiming that she can play games as well, even with filth such as Bulma. After gasping for air for a bit, Bulma finally notices Trunks with a bag of chips staring at them horrified. Toa notices the same child and gasps at the sight of his face. She was reminded of the older boy she saw wielding a glowing blue sword fighting Zamasu. After realizing that this may not be the same boy from that fight, she begins noticing him shaking at the sight of his mother being harmed. Bulma tries to tell Trunks to go get help, but the half-Saiyan child gets angry and demands that the evil blue woman let go of his mother or she'll be sorry. Toa smiles at this challenge and lets Bulma go. As she coughs for air, Trunks begins powering up when he is suddenly interrupted by Whis' voice. Back on Beerus' homeworld, Whis and Beerus are placing their order for their next meal, only to get rudely interrupted by Bulma, who pleads them to send back Vegeta to help her. Vegeta overhears a conversation of Bulma explaining some crazy lady is terrorizing his family and is demanding his wife to hand over the Dragon Radar. Whis checks out his staff and gasps with astonishment, asking himself rhetorically if Bulma's attacker truly is who he thinks she is. An impatient Vegeta is sent over the edge and demands Whis takes him to Earth now, grabbing him by his divine garbs. Whis calmly but sternly advises Vegeta to lower his tone with him and let go of him. And Vegeta, after some restraint, does realize what he's doing and powers down. Whis says they'll go there as fast as possible. Vegeta kicking himself for leaving in the first place. Without Kakarot's instant transmission, he can only pray that they get back to Earth before Trunks or Bulma get hurt, or worse yet, his daughter Bulla. After some fighting, it becomes quite evident Trunks is out of his league as Towa trounces all over the barely experienced half-Saiyan runt. But he keeps pressing on while making fun of her along the way. Having enough of the insults, Towa decides to stop holding back and teach the pet some manners, utterly destroying the child. Despite all of his training, the only experience Trunks has had with a real threat was Majin Buu, and Towa is nowhere near the level of Majin Buu. She's beyond it altogether. So much so that Trunks can't even sense her ki energy, which is throwing him out of the loop in attempts to track her movements. After being knocked around his home, Trunks is left barely able to continue and stand. Bulma pleads to Towa to stop and shows her the real Dragon Radar. She can have it if she spares Trunks. Towa decides to comply and begins to take it. The demon is stopped by none other than Trunks, who in a fit of rage begins powering up. Upset by Towa's attacks really hurting him and his mother getting hurt by this lady and the utter refusal to let his family down, Trunks builds up enough anger to transcend beyond the limits of a mere Super Saiyan. For the first time, Trunks has now gone Super Saiyan 2. With his new powers, Trunks takes Towa by surprise for a bit, actually getting in some good blows, but ultimately Towa resumes dominance and defends herself as Trunks is pushing her back some, but Towa is otherwise unfazed. She mocks Trunks' childish anger, angering the ascended Super Saiyan more, only for him to get eventually pummeled right back down to the ground. "You Saiyans in your super forms," Towa mocks triumphantly, then kicks Trunks back to the ground and fires a volley, a powerful ki blast that eventually knocks Trunks out of his Super Saiyan 2 form all the way back to base level. The demon decides to claim her prize first and snatches the Dragon Radar from the terrified Bulma, smiling as she observes it. She brags about her intelligence, saying that she probably could have made something far superior if she had the time to do so. Her gloat session is interrupted by a man from behind, growling the phrase, "Get the hell away from my family right now." It's Vegeta. He's powering up with all of his Saiyan rage and flies towards Towa. Towa calmly opens a portal and teleports behind Vegeta with his God Ki. Vegeta sends Towa's whereabouts and quickly charges the Gallic gun as he turns into Towa and fires it with full unbridled fury power. Towa gasps. Startled by the Saiyan's quick reflexes, she takes the full brunt of the shot, screaming as she inflicted with heavy damage by the Saiyan Prince. The smoke clears, Towa is gone, Vegeta has won. The victorious warrior wishes his fallen adversary good riddance. The moment is interrupted by Whis, who approaches Vegeta, saying that he must be quite the fool to think if that attack actually did her in. Later on that night, Gohan returns to Trunks' room with a whole bag of senzu beans. Goten is there too, hoping his best friend is okay. Trunks heals within time, and Vegeta rests easy knowing he's okay. He didn't show it much, but on the inside he was kicking himself all over this. Forget the Earth. What good is he if he can't defend his own family? How could he not be fast enough to stop his son from getting into that much danger in the first place? The thoughts anger him more and more, almost to the point of going Super Saiyan, until he hears Bola yawning in her room, turning over to continue to her sleep. The thought of her safety does calm Vegeta down some. He'll be faster next time. It will not happen again. His typical stern father attitude, he coldly praises his son for defending his mother and sister until the end, making Trunks very happy. Goten says how he heard Trunks went Super Saiyan 2. Trunks brags about this, and Goten is excited that now his friend is really strong now. Trunks says that he's stronger than Goten, who gets childish back and forth with his friend about how he's not. Vegeta and Gohan then talk away from everyone else to discuss with what Whis and Beerus is actually happening right now. Vegeta, Whis, Beerus, and Gohan talking about what they just saw. Whis is stunned by the two that saying Towa's return may spell doom for mortals and gods like if she is left unchecked, and it was foolish to let her escape. Vegeta asks how he's so sure that she escaped. Whis exchanges looks with Beerus, who breaks the silence, saying that it doesn't matter how Whis knows. Either way, for now, it's God's business. Vegeta and Gohan are not to get involved. Vegeta snaps at Beerus for saying this after his entire family was attacked by this woman. Beerus threatens to finish the job as well. He should continue to persist. These words shut Vegeta up. Gohan wonders what could be so bad that Beerus wouldn't allow Vegeta to help. Whis tells Vegeta to thank Bulma for the treat she provided and that he hopes for the best, and teleports himself and Beerus away from Earth altogether, leaving Gohan and Vegeta lost as to what to do next. We then see a battle-torn Goku panting heavily as his fight with the Bojack Pirates is not going anywhere fast for him at all, but he's definitely still up for round 2. Elsewhere, a man named Mira tells Towa that she is extremely lucky that the Dragon Radar wasn't destroyed by Vegeta's blast. Towa is playfully hurt that Mira would think she would be stupid enough to risk getting the fragile machine broken that easily. It is revealed that she left it in one of her portals and exited out without it, and to try to get the drop on Vegeta. And when she was blasted by the Gallic gun, she used her portals again in the chaos to fake her demise. Mira apologizes for doubting her as Toa stares at her trophy with disgust, knowing if given more time and resources she can make a far better radar than this hunk of junk. But time is of the essence. She then calls forth another man and hands him the radar, a masked Saiyan, who is ordered to now fetch Toa all the Super Dragon Balls in the timeline without question, while Toa and Mirror further the rest of their agenda. The masked Saiyan nods in compliance. Next time on Dragon Ball Super. If you thought Goku's in trouble now, his troubles have only just begun. And on the homeworld of Tarbal, no less, Vegeta's little brother, what is he doing here? Is this his homeworld? That's almost as weird as the masked Saiyan roaming around. Wait, another Saiyan? That's right, a new Saiyan has emerged from hiding, seeking to claim a Super Dragon Ball on this planet. Seems like Goku's getting some bad vibes from this guy, and rightfully so. So he wants to kill him. Goku, stay on your guard. This warrior seems to be playing for keeps. Shell of the Warrior, Goku, release your warrior spirit. End Chapter 2. Start off with a space pirate ship just above a nearby planet. Goku struggles to get any good blows on the pirates. Without his Super Saiyan forms in play, he can't seem to fight off the pirates as effectively as he normally would, especially with their insidious tricks that keep him off his game. Breathing room is also scarce for the struggling warrior, considering the pirates fight against him in close quarters if they're not springing their traps upon him. Even someone as strong and as experienced as Goku can handle only so many opponents at a time, but still he refuses to go Super Saiyan or any variation of the form. He knew what he was getting into, and he has yet to back down from a challenge he's ever set himself up for. Eventually, Goku gets the idea of using moves, some he had even stopped using over the years, in interesting ways to compensate for his base level strength, using the after image technique to psych out his opponents, leaving openings in their defenses where he deals as much damage as he can before using his instant transmission technique to teleport near the pirate furthest away from the group. He attacks and gains his bearings to continue another ingenious assault using a multitude of techniques from his classic days as a fighter to his modern days, combining them in unique ways to keep his opponents off balance before they can get to him. Some old ones and new ones like the Super Turtle Kick, Tail Cannon, Energy Concentration, Meteor Combination, etc. all string together in various ways to even the playing field. Even the multi-form technique becomes a useful tactic, which thanks to his Super Saiyan powers he's keeping in reserve, briefly dividing himself into a smaller handful of clones. In theory, one split his power levels too much. With his quick thinking, battle skills prevailing, Goku takes out multiple pirates at a time as if they were nothing. With a confident grin and chuckle, the victorious warrior stares down Bojack with all of his pirates defeated before him. Goku thanks Bojack for the workout. He's been itching for a good fight all day. The pirate leader playfully goes along with the Saiyan act and rewards him by unleashing his true power, his full power state form. Goku smirks at the sight of a stronger warrior and opponent, but after some high-speed exchanges of punches and kicks, the Saiyan finds himself taken back a bit by Bojack's dramatic increase in power. With Super Saiyan forms off the table, Goku goes for the next best thing and activates the Kaioken Types 3 technique. Goku rationalizes the use of a multiplier technique by saying that it may multiply his power in his Super Saiyan forms, but due to the nature of the technique, he could only use it sparingly. Fighting with all his strength, the Saiyan eventually gains the upper hand again, but too stubborn to lose, Bojack pushes power levels even higher and begins gaining on Goku. In retaliation, the Saiyan of Earth activates Kaioken times 4 and combines it with the Meteor Combination attack that finishes off with a Kamehameha. Bojack, refusing to lose, begins to overpower the Kamehameha with sheer strength of will, and he inches closer and closer to his foe in spite of the blast, with his Galactic Blow technique carrying a ball of green energy in his hands. Without the calming flow of God Ki keeping it in check, Kaioken remained a deadly technique in Goku's arsenal for both his opponents and himself. But in the moment, despite the risk of death, the Saiyan is determined to win this fight and releases an even louder cry, triggering Kaioken times 10 as Bojack gets within inches of catching his prey to deliver the energy ball, and two energy forces collide, causing an explosion in space that sends the two unconsciously crashing down to the planet below. Somewhere nearby the location of Goku's crash, a tailed figure is watching in the distance, and on a mountain out of sight from the tailed man, yet very nearby, a masked stranger watches Goku's fall with folded arms. The man grunts angrily at the sight of the fallen Saiyan. Meanwhile, in an unknown place in an unknown point of the multiverse, Beerus and Whis are floating towards a large blue structure. Beerus looks to be in deep thought. Whis finally breaks the silence, asking how does Beerus believe Toa was freed. Beerus questions why his attendant would think he would know. Maybe they didn't even break free. Whis playfully ponders the answers to the mysteries that he lays before them for a bit before finally stopping in a front of a large structure, announcing that they have reached their destination. They find themselves surrounded by giant blue crystals, each one showing off different people from different timelines. Whis looks off to the side to see Goku in one of the crystals, fighting Beerus for the time. At this point, he's reverted back to Super Saiyan 1, having run out of his God Ki powers granted by Vegeta, Gohan, Videl, Goten, and Trunks. Currently, he is chasing Beerus off into space into their intense brawl. Whis makes a jest about how much growth one can experience in such little time. Beerus has now turned his attention to a crystal showing future Trunks turning Super Saiyan 1 for the first time at the sight of future Gohan's demise. He finally retorts to his attendant's comments by saying at the end of the day how little Goku's actually grown with his impulsiveness, but admits to him getting stronger nonetheless. Whis actually corrects Lord Beerus by saying that Goku wasn't exactly who he was referring to in that statement, but the God of Destruction isn't exactly wrong about what Goku is either. Beerus asks Whis what he's trying to imply, but Whis just says it doesn't really matter. It's been hard for Whis not to see Beerus' slowly evolving attitude with the Z Fighters, how much a God of Destruction seemingly finds an unusually growing attachment to the mortals. First it was Goku's fighting spirit and Bulma's cooking, the respect for Roshi during the Tournament of Power, the easiness in his attitude ever since has become the Z Fighters' acquaintances. Back to business though, Whis and Beerus looked for the proper crystal until they finally found it. A giant crystal near the far back containing a repeating scene of Toa, Mira, and another sinister looking demon screaming in agony as they become surrounded by a white light. The loop resumes over and over and over again. Beerus decides that it's enough to confirm it for him. That can't be the same in regards to Toa, the Grand Priest dealt with. Whis stops Beerus and advises him to check again. Beerus grudgingly does so, but then eases up when he notices that every 4 repeats, Toa and Mira are missing from the scene. Whis asks Beerus what they should do next. Beerus decides they must do some more investigating before they tell the Grand Priest about this. Satisfied enough with the decision, the God of Destruction's assistant asks Beerus where they should go next. After some thought, Beerus gains an idea and commands Whis to send them into the demon realm. Perhaps they could gather some more information on Toa and Mira's whereabouts there. After some brief thought, as he stares at the crystal Toa and Mira keep disappearing from, Beerus stops Whis before he can execute the order and decides that they should look around a bit more before they can go. Meanwhile, back on the alien planet in Universe 7, Goku awakens from his long nap. Much to his dismay, a familiar face sits before him cooking food with a fire. Vegeta's little brother Tarbo, who greets Goku politely. Goku is shocked that Tarbo lives this close to planet Earth. He's barely left the Earth's solar system after a bit of catching up. Goku's reminded that he left his ship back on the moon. Thanks to his fight with the space pirates of the ship, he must have gotten a lot further away than he realized. It didn't matter because luckily he still has the first bag of senzu beans in his pocket, or so he thought. The childish panic, Goku realizes that he left the bag on the ship. Not good, considering the Kaioken technique severely drained his stamina. The worst part is, he can't use the instant transmission to get back up to his ship, considering there's no key signal to lock onto. Man, Goku really screwed up this time. Tarbo asks exactly what it is, a senzu bean, and is astonished to hear such a food exists that can heal any and all wounds within an instant. Goku's youngest son did help him out last time he was in trouble, so Tarbo decides the least he can do is help Goku get back to his ship and give him a lift. The Saiyan warrior graciously thanks the pacifist and allows him to lead the way. A stomach growl later prompts Goku to ask if there's going to be food on Tarbo's ship. All that fighting with Bojack and his men surely made him hungry. Tarbo sides at the comment, remembering his eating habits before even being worse than his brothers. What is it with other Saiyans and fighting anyway? Now, from the distance, the masked Saiyan man watches Goku and Tarbo travel to their destination. He checks his stolen Super Dragon radar. The Dragon Ball was definitely within his system. In fact, it was very nearby. The man looks up to the sky with a blank stare. It's only a matter of time before he completed his mission. A while later, though, Tarbo and Goku are approaching the moon using Tarbo's ship. Tarbo makes a comment that the moon Goku landed on apparently doesn't actually belong near his world. It's appeared there one day out of thin air. Goku admits that's kind of strange, but is kind of too fascinated by all the food going down his stomach at unhealthy speeds. Tarbo chastises him in a kind fashion. He and Vegeta were alike in some ways, their appetites included. Tarbo then asks Goku how Vegeta's doing with food stuffed in his mouth. Goku briefly talks about how much stronger Vegeta's gotten, and he's really impressed. He then proclaims that he was hoping after his Ultra Instinct training, the two could go one-on-one and see how far they've come since the last time they saw each other. While not interested in fighting, Tarbo was interested in his brother. He looked up to him like no one else. The legendary Super Saiyan that killed Frieza himself, or so he had been misinformed. Tarble knew Goku was strong, but in his mind, without a shadow of a doubt, that Vegeta was stronger, Vegeta would definitely win in a fight between those two, at least that's what Tarble thought. Upon arriving on the moon, though, the two Saiyans exit the vessel and search for Goku's ship. They find a starcraft with the masked Saiyan standing in front of it, much to their surprise. A man in black and red armor resembling that of his Saiyans, minus the shoulder, with spiky black hair, much like Goku's, wearing an intimidating mask with glaring red eyes. Tarble kindly greets himself and Goku to the man and explains their situation, only to be replied with silence. Eventually, Goku gets in a fighting stance, getting bad vibes from the dead-eyed stranger, and orders Tarble to stand back. Before he can finish the command, however, Goku is nearly caught off guard by a brutal punch to the gut. Luckily, the Saiyan's sharp battle instincts keep him on his toes, and he is only barely able to block the attack. This wouldn't be easy considering his weakened state from his fight with Bojack, but in the mind of Goku, this only made the experience more exciting. With an instant, the two began engaging in hand-to-hand combat, Goku taking his time to test out what his opponent can do, as per usual, even allowing some good punches in from the masked man due to his carelessness. But not to be outdone, Goku does deliver some of his own hits in. Eventually gaining their distance from each other, Goku compliments the masked man's strength, but then calls him out for holding his power back. But to the surprise, the comment angers his opponent more and more. The roar of fury, the mysterious fighter powers up, turning his hair and his energy yellow, allowing Goku and Tarble to come to the realization that he is fighting another Saiyan all along. But it's only after Goku was pummeled even harder by the Saiyan warrior that he comes to realize that things have gotten much harder. He couldn't use a Super Saiyan technique, it would interfere with his training. He could manage without it, he was sure of that. Using the solar flare technique, Goku blinds the masked Super Saiyan, causing him to stagger back as Goku gets his bearings. He asks the man, who is he and why is he attacking them? After some silence, the man clenches his fist angrily and tells Goku he expected more in this fight, especially from him. The comment shocks both Goku and Tarble. You call yourself a Saiyan, then fight like one, stop messing around. The masked Saiyan proclaims as he charges his adversary head on. Goku managed to defend himself well enough as well to deliver some blows in on his opponent, but he was simply being overpowered. Tarble stares in horror at this. He couldn't run to anyone. He couldn't leave Goku behind, could he? What was he going to do to his friend if he couldn't pull through this? While trenching on his opponent, the masked Saiyan questions Goku's strength, calling him a pathetic excuse for a warrior. He knew this wasn't the limit of Goku's strength. He knew he could fight harder than this, stronger than this, better than this. Fighting for your life like this is some kind of game? What kind of warrior are you? Come at me with everything you have, or I will kill you where you stand. Masked Saiyan roars. Every time Goku uses a little bit more of his strength to slightly gets the upper hand, the man comes at him 2 times stronger, catching Goku completely off guard. No matter what tactic Goku used to outsmart the Masked Saiyan, he finds himself easily countered. After a little bit of fighting, battle damage stares at the Goku. Goku stares at the masked man, eventually going off in a smirk despite reaching his limit. This angered the man even more. Still no way Goku would have had the time to charge a spirit bomb strong enough to take this guy out, which obviously has been used to defeat several foes beforehand. For a minute, Goku obviously considers using his Super Saiyan powers, but goes against it. This is his test, right? How is he supposed to learn to teach his body to fight on its own if he relies on multipliers? No, he'd win this fight without Super Saiyan forms. He'd unlock Ultra Instinct or die trying to do both options. The Saiyan of Earth never backed down from a challenge, and he would not start now. A last-ditch effort, forgetting the danger of it all, Goku triggers the Kaioken technique times 4 with a multiplier and charges a full-power Kamehameha wave, going as far as his body would allow him to, holding back nothing as the masked Saiyan calmly walks to him at first unfazed. He begins to fly towards Goku at super speeds until he senses Goku's power rising to a startling point. Goku angrily stares down his gasping attacker. You want my full power? You got it here. Goku shouts as he fires everything he has as the masked Saiyan channeled into a single Kamehameha wave. The brutal warrior staggers back a bit as the energy blast approaches, briefly a flash of huge ball of lightning approaching him as the man's mental state resumes to the present day. Filled with anger, he roars to the top of his lungs, turns Super Saiyan Rage, uses an attack called the final Spirit Cannon that pierces through the Kamehameha wave, splitting in half and smashes into a stunned Goku, finishing him off. Tarble cries out for Goku, seemingly that he has been killed by the masked Saiyan. The smoke then clears to reveal that Goku is indeed still alive, but he is badly injured. The masked Saiyan's attack, added to Goku's weakened state from his Kaioken technique he used on Bojack, had taken all out of him, essentially all out of him. He wasn't dead though, but he was completely depleted of ki. Tarble shouts out for Goku, who is struggling to answer his friend, let alone get up to continue fighting. The triumphant Saiyan walks up to Goku taking out a button from his pocket. He tells Goku that he has not failed because he wasn't strong enough to win, but because he treated the fight as a game rather than doing what it truly took to win. With his free hand, he picks up Goku by the hair and throws him toward Tarble, telling him to leave unless he wishes to share a worse fate than him. Afraid for his life, Tarble eventually complies and drags Goku to a ship. Goku, with his remaining strength, asks the Masked Saiyan exactly who he is and is told that he is a servant of a group calling themselves the Reclaimers, an organization run by the gods themselves, and they will be avenged. The Masked Saiyan staring at Goku coldly as he is being dragged into the ship by Tarble. After some tinkering, Tarble eventually figures out how to pilot Goku's ship and flies back to his home, reluctantly leaving his ship behind. But if Goku's ship truly had magic beams of healing, then no way was Tarble going to leave those behind the shape Goku was in. The Masked Saiyan looked at the cracked surface of the moon, caused during the fight, to reveal an orange filling inside. He presses the button he took out of his pocket earlier, and a giant portal appears, sucking in the moon, chunks of it breaking off, revealing itself to be none other than the 4 Super Dragon Balls. Tarble stares in awe at the sight of a giant Dragon Ball disappearing into space. He then tends off to the badly injured Goku, who sleeps restlessly. He had lost a fight today. He has lost fights before, but this one was different. Something about the Masked Saiyan's words had gotten to him, words that he would not soon forget. And guys, that will conclude chapter 3 here of the Reclaimer saga. Really good stuff. Obviously, we had a fight here between Goku and Bojack, Goku and Bojack at first, obviously, and then Goku and the Masked Saiyan, which we presume obviously is Bardock under the control of Mira and Toa, with the organization obviously known as the Reclaimers. Obviously, the Masked Saiyan was able to get the better of Goku because Goku was not fighting with the Super Saiyan techniques that he has relied on, obviously for most of his fighting career, at least once he became an adult. He was using Kaioken, obviously trying his best to use his base power form and Kaioken to try and win these fights, as opposed to, like I said, relying on Super Saiyan or even Ultra Instinct at any given time. So it was very interesting to see Goku's mindset and his mentality, at least when it comes to not relying on those forms, which is pretty Goku-like. Always wanting to test himself, and even when he's in a dangerous situation, not taking things as seriously as he should. Not doubting or underestimating the strength, obviously, of the Masked Saiyan here in this chapter, but if Goku were to use his Super Saiyan forms or even tap into Ultra Instinct, I think he would have a much better chance of actually defeating the Masked Saiyan, and probably would have walked away with very little injury. Like I said, not downplaying the Masked Saiyan's strength, because we have not even seen or been exposed to his full power. But considering Goku fought him in the state that he fought him in, it obviously goes to show you that sometimes Goku just simply doesn't seem to learn his lesson, even though this could serve as a good test for his fighting, and obviously to not rely on his Super Saiyan forms. If he were to die, what good is that going to do him, you know? Last time on Dragon Ball Super, Goku had to come face to face with the Masked Saiyan. A formidable masked warrior managed to overpower Goku during his handicapped Ultra Instinct training. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the Z Fighters begin wondering about their own safety as they are told the threat of Toa is business strictly for a god to handle, and begin pondering about their place in all this. What actions will the Z Fighters take? Find out today on Dragon Ball Super. On Earth, Trunks and Goten soar through the skies, traveling to their next destination with the utmost haste. The sun Trunks uses the Dragon Ball radar, to make sure that they're still going in the right direction. The son of the prince asks Goten how many Dragon Balls they have collected at this point. And at first, Goten says roughly 6, which confuses Trunks because he has 2 signals on the radar at the moment. That is until Goten realizes he miscounted and that there are only 5 that they have. Trunks is a bit annoyed by the silly mistake, but decides to just let it go and just get to the closest Dragon Ball near them. Goten is fine with this, but asks Trunks so they can take a quick bathroom break. They've been flying non-stop for about 30 minutes. Slightly more annoyed, Trunks leads the way to find somewhere for his friend to take a leak. Dragon Ball Super Reclaimer Saga Chapter 4, A Call to Action, Vegeta's Great Dilemma. In Universe 7, at Gohan's place, Piccolo and Gohan are watching Pan play by the backyard while talking about the incident at Vegeta's house the other day. Piccolo wonders if Toa is really a demon like she claims. From the sound of things, Toa looked a lot more like Whis' race than anything else, from the blue skin all the way down to the white hair. Now, Gohan admits he's more concerned about the thought that this is something so bad that Whis and Beerus would forbid them from even trying to help. And if things do happen to get out of control again, will he be ready this time to face the challenge with the others? Pan breaks the moment of tension by grabbing onto her father's hair and yanking it all around, causing Gohan to slightly panic as he politely tries to get his daughter to let go. Eventually, Piccolo decides to help the pathetic sight of his student being taken down by his only child and tries to pry Pan away, only to be playfully kicked in the face by the floating baby. The Namekian begins to seriously get annoyed by all this when their comedic moment is suddenly interrupted by Videl, who has exited the house to tell Gohan she has received a call from Bulma and needing Gohan's help and having him go to her house right away. In Tarbo's world, however, outside his house, Goku is punching and kicking the air repeatedly, doing some basic training. After one of his punches, he begins reflecting on the Masked Saiyan's words about him not fighting seriously enough. Even remember Whis' words to him when he was training the lighthearted Saiyan and his arch rival Vegeta. Even then, Whis said it was one of those things that held him back from letting his body fight and maneuver on its own. This also triggers Goku to ponder on the idea that he could be going about things the wrong way. What if handicapping himself as a Super Saiyan was only stopping him from fighting on his own even more? Before the thought is finished, Tarbo and Goku are talking more about the Masked Saiyan they encountered on the moon. Goku admits the guy was really strong, but in his defense, the Z-Fighter wasn't exactly up to par during that fight. Tarbo asks Goku if he's ever seen a Dragon Ball as big as the one the Masked Saiyan escaped with, and is briefly educated in the power of the Super Dragon Balls. After some talk, Goku decides that he definitely wants another rematch with the Masked Saiyan, and if these Reclaimer guys are as strong as they claim to be, if not stronger, he's definitely going to fight them too. The only problem is now finding out where they are. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Gohan and Piccolo are surprised to see Krillin and Tien on Bulma's front lawn already. Piccolo and Gohan were watching over Pan, talking about the Toa incident when Videl notified them about a call from Bulma, telling them to meet up at her place. Turns out Krillin's story wasn't much different after all. His training with Master Roshi and Tien was put on hold from the same call as well. The four began wondering what this could be about and head inside together. Inside, within the confines of the rebuilt gravity chamber, Vegeta is fiercely training. He becomes consumed in the memories of Toa terrorizing his family, and it makes him train even harder to perfect his abilities. He then curses this inferior training equipment. He's trained so long with more intense pressure under Whis. This is once an essential part of his training routine almost seemed completely useless now. But if Whis was going to be gone for a while, he was going to have to ask Bulma to upgrade the chamber even more. The Saiyan Prince exits the gravity chamber and notices Trunks and Goten carrying the Dragon Balls down the hallway. Startling the mess out of the two children, Vegeta asks what they are using the Dragon Balls for. The two, of course, hesitate to answer, making Vegeta even more annoyed with them now. Elsewhere, though, the Z-Fighters are grouped together in Bulma's lab and are given a briefing by Bulma, who tells them that they are going to stop Toa's evil plans with or without Beerus' help. The team is uneasy about this at first, Piccolo even calling Bulma out on her decision to go against the orders of God of Destruction. Tien is the first to step up and hear Bulma out. With some sass towards the previously rude warriors, Bulma explains that very soon Trunks and Goten will have returned with the Dragon Ball so they can ask Shenron the important questions they need to know about Toa, hoping he knows anything, and go on with their little investigation as to where she is and how to take them out themselves. She said she was a demon, so after getting help from Shenron, they could wish for a way to get to the demon world and look around there as well. Krillin asks Bulma if they're really going to fight someone even Beerus seems to fear, why not bring Vegeta in on this? Bulma uneasily admits her husband may not all be interested in the idea of going against Beerus. You're damn right I'm not, a voice proclaims from behind. Enter Vegeta, startling the Z-Fighters with his sudden appearance. At the entry door, Trunks and Goten poke their heads in, apologizing for telling Vegeta everything. Trunks had been threatened to have his allowance cut in half otherwise. Vegeta demands the two to leave. His command is obeyed with very little hesitation. The purebred Saiyan that makes his stance on this issue very clear. He was not going on this adventure with them, and they aren't going on it either. Vegeta continues to argue with Bulma and the others over this. Bulma and the Z-Fighters pleads to the Saiyan Prince to let them do this, but Vegeta refuses to allow it, taking Beerus' threat to heart. He remembers and soberly retells the story of what happened when his father disobeyed Beerus by merely giving him the second most comfortable pillow. How Beerus humiliated him to teach him a lesson. It was by mere luck the God of Destruction didn't destroy Planet Vegeta for his father's disobedience. A technical truth, one could say. Krillin mildly pokes fun at the story, saying how ridiculous it is that someone could get that mad at a pillow, but Vegeta snaps at him, saying that is obviously besides the point. Gohan brings up to Vegeta the possibility of Beerus failing. What if this threat is even beyond the gods? Should the Z-Fighters sit on the sidelines again? Tien agrees with Gohan, reminding Vegeta that there may still be threats beyond even Beerus' power. If someone like Jiren were out there that could transcend beyond his God of Destruction power, nothing says that like a person like Toa, who Beerus is so cautious about, couldn't also be beyond Beerus' power. Vegeta, ignoring the points made by his allies, reminds them all that ever since they met Beerus, they've been very lucky he's been so lenient on the Z Fighters. That said, the same prince won't put his new home in jeopardy like this because Bulma and company want to play superheroes, and if they want to contest this, they'll have to go through him. Everyone goes silent, knowing very well how serious Vegeta is about this. He wasn't like Goku, who would be easily persuaded to tag along so as long as there was a good fight promised to him at the very least. Bulma eventually breaks the silence and gets in Vegeta's face, daring him to do something. Vegeta is taken back by this challenge at first, then warns Bulma that he's serious about this and he'll do whatever it takes to stop her. Bulma says that he'll have to kill her then, because after the stunt that Toa pulled with harming her son, she'll stop at nothing to take down the smug demon, or take the smug demon down. Besides, last time they let Beerus handle quote-unquote God business, he failed to even properly do that when he thought he had eradicated Zamasu. No way is Bulma just going to trust that level of incompetence. Vegeta grows with frustration and growls, and he can never quite control Bulma's temper and her behavior. However, though, the blasted woman always challenging him has a tough attitude. Therefore, Vegeta is perplexed as how a woman can be so physically weak, such as Bulma, but also be braver than just about anyone he's ever met. To even stand up to Lord Beerus on multiple occasions despite his status and power, to even take the Saiyan Prince in when he was nothing but evil and desired revenge on one of her closest friends. Nothing truly scared her. Vegeta reluctantly backs down with a scowl and tells them to do whatever the hell they want, but Bulma's not leaving with them and that he will go in her place instead of wherever their investigation may lead. Last thing he needed was her running into Toa again and getting hurt. Gohan kindly thanks Vegeta for his change in heart, his reply being a cold shoulder from the Saiyan Prince. Bulma teases Vegeta a bit, causing him to blush some upon kissing his cheek. The action evokes Vegeta into yelling at her to back off. The other Z fighters chuckle and smile at this moment. Krillin eventually asks the question of when they are going to get started, and Bulma says after they talk to Shenron. They'll start preparing within the next 3 days to work out all the kinks in the plan. In the meantime, the others would have time to train as long and hard as they could for whatever comes next. The Z fighters nod in agreement. Vegeta just looks annoyed. This would be risky, especially if Beerus found out, but if they could just learn of Toa's plan, maybe there is a way they could help stop her from initiating it altogether. Bulma calls with Trunks to bring her the Dragon Balls. It was time to have a talk with Shenron. Next time on Dragon Ball Super, it's Back to the Future. Lord Beerus begins closing in on one of the Reclaimers' whereabouts, and the hunt leads him to the Future Universe 7, where the cold-hearted Mira is waiting for him. Could this be actual being giving Lord Beerus a reason to fight harder than he has ever been able to do so and seen before? Beerus, be careful. Something's not right about this guy. Challenge of Destruction, Mira, the ultimate fighter. Guys, that does wrap it up here for the Reclaimer Saga Chapter 4. Just some additional notes left by Jake Tylenol himself. He says his inspiration for the episode, Vegeta's reluctance. He said he wanted to play on the idea that while he has gotten far stronger than before, he is still hesitant about standing up to Lord Beerus. As of episode 125 in Dragon Ball Super, it has not been determined whether or not Vegeta is even halfway to his God of Destruction level, but even still, no matter how strong Vegeta's gotten in the show, he always shows respect to the idea that Beerus is far stronger. And then last but not least, the Z Fighters going against the odds. In the Cell Saga, one of the themes that obviously as the evil Z Fighters were facing, they were getting far too strong for non-Saiyan fighters to tackle, but when Gohan needed the Z Fighters to help him against Cell the most, they were willing to throw power levels out the window to do what they can. While cautious of the idea, I do believe in a situation where they're even openly told how they wouldn't be strong enough for this, especially after seeing all of them get back into training again during the Tournament of Power. The Z Fighters would stand up for their planet and defend it against odds rather than sit on the sideline. So guys, that does conclude the entire story of the Dragon Ball Super Reclaimer Saga. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. More stories, more videos to come. As always, make sure mobile notifications